Welcome, everybody, to the latest edition of the Bullpen with Adam the Bull, brought to you by Bet Rivers. You see him there, Northeast Ohio's own Brian Hoyer, longtime NFL quarterback, Super Bowl champ. Brian, how you doing, man? Thanks for joining me today.
I'm great. It looks like great weather out where I'm at. I'm about to go to my son's baseball game, but it's actually like 40 degrees. So don't feel too, good for me about being out in the sunshine. It's still a little cold.
Yeah, I mean, it's been brutal. I was at the Guardians-Cubs doubleheader on Sunday, and it was like 35 degrees. It was brutal. Not fun to play baseball in this weather, but you got to
tough it out. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
exactly.
Makes you tougher.
Did you like baseball, basketball? I mean, were you into a lot of other sports as a kid, I assume?
I mean, I grew up like most of the people in Cleveland my age. Like the Indians were incredible. Those runs. I mean, the other day I saw, I think on Instagram or Twitter, like the lineup from the 97 team. It was like, it was incredible. Yeah. And if it wasn't for Craig Counsell, blowing that World Series and, and Jose Mesa, I mean, it's what I grew up with. So, there was no Browns when I would say formative years. So I was major baseball. Baseball was probably my best sport even through high school. Yeah. So now I get to relive it a little bit watching my son out there.
Are you still locked into the Guardians, or has too much time passed at this point?
No, I mean, I watch them. It's always weird to pause and say Guardians as opposed to Indians. Yeah. I mean, the cool thing about being here in Boston and really my kids growing up here is we've adopted the Red Sox. Now they've had a rough start to the year, but I have no complaints about going to see a game at Fenway. Every time I walk in there, it's like, walking back in time. And so that's been cool. But, for me now with MLB Network and all that stuff, like my son has favorite players, really. I think, and that's, you see that a lot these days. So, he loves Acuna, he loves Ohtani. So whenever those guys are playing, we try to watch those teams.
I want to ask you about Ohtani before we wrap up this baseball conversation. Okay. I mean, to me, as a layman, that the fact that he's a great hitter and a great pitcher is insane. But as a former professional athlete, how nuts is it what he's doing?
Yeah, I mean, he's one of a kind. And I've actually done not a deep dive, but you go in and you see, like, how is he brought up? And I don't know if you've ever seen this, like his goal chart in high school was unbelievable. Like he just had a vision for himself and wasn't going to let somebody tell him he couldn't do it. And obviously he's extremely talented, size, all of those things. Mm-hmm. But it's sometimes when you get to professional athletics, you say, well, it's never been done before, it can't be done. Well, there's guys out there who are capable of doing it. You even look at, my favorite football player growing up was Deion Sanders. And really it was because he was a two-way player on the football field, but also he was a two-sports star. And, that was always my dream. And people said, it's going to be too hard. And, as you get older, you realize there's a lot of other good players out there. But if you're a special talent and you work hard and you set the goals like Ohtani has, I mean, it's really incredible when you watch him and what he's able to do at the plate, and now back to pitching. So I always, whenever he's playing, we try to watch him.
Yeah, no doubt about it. A great example. We're talking with Brian Hoyer, of course. And Brian, I'm curious, like the Browns quarterback situation here is, it's a mess right now. There's hope maybe that Shedeur Sanders can be the starting quarterback. It feels like the Browns are trying to convince people that they're going to give Deshaun Watson another try. Whether that's true or not, who knows? But they're both polarizing figures. You know a lot about a polarizing figure. Obviously, you played with Johnny Manziel. Obviously, I don't want to lump either of these guys, especially Shedeur, in with Johnny Manziel, because the Shedeur drama has, it's not because he's, nonsense that he's doing really. But what would your advice be, especially to the young guy, to Shedeur Sanders, to how to avoid the distractions and just focus on football?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's first of all, it's a different era now, right? There's you have your personal brand. Shedeur was making NIL money before he enters the league, so this is like a different era of athlete, that's coming in, and he's extremely confident. And from what I recall from last year, Deshaun was actually there helping. Shedeur in the building, right? There was reports of that, and so I think this is going to be. I don't want to use the word like friendly competition. I think they're going to push each other, and I think that's great. I mean, when I was there in Cleveland and I had the competition with Johnny, it made me prepare in a way that I wanted to go out every day and do the job the best that I could. And so if you're Shador and if you're Deshaun, I mean, what is Shadon play? Deshaun's played 19 games since
Yeah.
since he signed with the Browns. Like, this is his opportunity to go back out and show what he can do as well. So I think both of these guys, in a friendly way, are going to push each other to be better players. And I guess you could laugh at the idea, but the reality is you've paid Deshaun all this money.
Right.
He's healthy, and it didn't seem like he burned any bridges. He kind of kept doing the right things while he was there, rehabbing, helping the young guy out. And I think worst case scenario, if Deshaun Watson can play, even close to what you had hoped he would play, that's either going to make Deshaun, sorry,
Yeah.
Shador a better player, or Deshaun's going to play and play good football.
You know, Deshaun was for a few years before he came to the Browns. This guy was one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
Yeah.
And now it's been since 2020 was the last time he played at that kind of level. So it's a long time. What do you think is the tougher hurdle to overcome? The physical? He's had 2 torn Achilles. He's had that shoulder injury a couple of years ago. Or is it the mental? Everything, whether he brought it on himself or not, is irrelevant in terms of this conversation. Like all the mental hurdles of what's been said, what's happened. What do you think is the tougher part for him?
I mean, I think at this point, the mental stuff is kind of more in the past than it is the physical, right? I
Okay.
think he's matured. You go through those things, and I'm sure he misses playing football, right? And I think if you can put the off field stuff aside and you can get healthy, like you said before, the injury and Deshaun was the next big thing, and that's the reason why the Browns gave him all that money. And so sometimes when the game's taken away from you, now I had my ACL injury when I was there in Cleveland, and
Yeah.
that was heartbreaking because it was really the first time the game had ever been taken away from me by injury. You can refocus, and also I think that, to me, the hardest part is not playing football for so long, right? Like, that's
Yeah.
especially at the quarterback position, just taking reps, even missing out on practices and off seasons and all of that stuff is going to be the interesting part when you talk about this competition. Like, how are the reps going to get split up? Because it's not like Deshaun's coming in like this veteran that doesn't need reps, because he really does, because he hasn't played in such a long time.
Right.
So, I saw Todd Monken, I guess either was talking today or yesterday, just talking about, how that's going to go. And he mentioned something I thought that I agree with. Like, at a certain point, like, you're going to have a feeling from what the team wants and who leads the team. And that usually is a good indicator of, which guy you want to go with.
Was there situations in your career, quarterback or not, like any position, where somebody was the starter, but the guys kind of thought somebody else should be? And what happened? And what's that like in that situation?
I can't think of anything like stark off the bat, but I
Right.
remember, and usually it was a young guy that really started to come on, and you saw an older guy who maybe was starting to age and wasn't,
Yeah.
didn't have the quickness in the step. And, I remember a receiver I played with once, and, I got there to a new team. It was in Chicago, and his name was Cam Meredith. I don't know if you remember him.
Yeah. I remember the name. Yeah.
But everyone was on. I was high on Alshon Jeffrey and Eddie Royal, and
Yeah.
I got there and I was just the backup quarterback, and I was working a lot with this kid, and I was like, man, I really like this kid. And then all of a sudden, I became the starting quarterback there, and he went off. Like, I was throwing him. He
Yeah.
was having 100-yard games, and it's sometimes it just takes someone else to recognize it in you, and then you build that confidence. So I've seen it before, but really, other than the quarterback position, even if there's that kind of indication, you have enough spaces on the field for people to play at the same time. The one thing about quarterback is there's only one of them, so it's like, the one thing I would say from my experiences doing quarterback competitions, the earlier you can figure it out and say, guys, this is the guy, like, the better it is for the team to gel and kind of get behind that guy as well.
The Browns are having voluntary offseason activities today and yesterday. Myles Garrett is not here for this. He never comes to this. Some people make a big deal about it. I didn't play. I couldn't care less. I mean, Myles Garrett, I don't know. As a former player, do you think it's a deal at all that Myles Garrett's not here for this?
No, I don't think so at all.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just it's the 15 years ago,
Yeah.
yes. Now the way that the schedule is, the way that, the new CBA is, all of those things, all the while you're talking about a guy who Miles is putting the work in, right? Like we're not saying that he's over there, overeating and not working out. Like this
Right.
guy is a freak. Like he's doing everything he needs to do. He's a veteran. It's not the one thing I would say, like the quarterback position, I always felt like it's important because there's building the chemistry and the timing with the receivers or the
Sure.
tight ends or the offensive line. Like defensive end, I mean, what's he got to work on? Like a TE game? Like you can't do that without pads anyway. So
Right.
it's probably actually better as he gets older that he does more with recovery and training and preparation. And this is the professional level. It's not like the guys are in the locker room saying, "Man, Myles isn't here. Like, we're going to hold it against him." No, like people understand when you get to this level. So, I guess would you like him to show up a little bit because there's a new coach and new defensive coordinator and kind of get those things? But in reality, come September, it's going to say, "Hey, Myles, just rush the quarterback and hit anything on the way, on the way there." So, for a defensive end, I don't think it's a problem at all.
Brian, Joel Bitonio, longtime Cleveland Brown. He's the dean of the Browns at this point. He's still a free agent. I've heard he's thinking about going to another team, possibly. Who knows if he wants to do that. When you're at the end of your career, you had a long career. Like when you're thinking about hanging it up, like how hard is it to make that decision?
Yeah, I mean, for me, you know, the one thing I would say about quarterback is you can
Yeah,
kind of extend a career because you could be the backup, you could
right.
be the mentor, you could do all of those things. I would say offensive line that
Yeah,
you really don't get that luxury.
that's
So it's
true.
really about, physically, can I get it done? And for me, when it became to the part of my career where it's like, okay, you're probably not going to get another starting opportunity, but you bring a lot of value in your knowledge, especially if you're paired with a young quarterback. And so for me, that was the reason I went as long as I did. Physically, I could have probably went another 2 3 years,
Right.
but the reality was, your kids get older, your wife gets tired of having to move.
Yeah.
You want to provide some consistency for them, and so I went out to Vegas and I said, look, this is it. No matter, I signed a 2 year deal.
Right.
Josh McDaniels was out there. Obviously I came out because of my knowledge of the offense, and signed a 2 year deal. I'm like, look, this is it. Like, we won't go anywhere else. We'll see how far this goes. And then, sure enough, he was fired after like 8 games, and they basically cleared house of any people that he had brought out. So it was a short stint. It was worth it. I'm glad that I was able to kind of go out on my terms, and then get back and get more into dad and husband mode.
I don't know. I don't know how closely you follow the draft, if at all, but
Hmm.
from your perspective as a player, we always debate, is it, right now the Browns' biggest needs, we'll leave quarterback to the side, is wide receiver and offensive line.
Yeah.
But when they pick at 6, probably the best players available might be a running back in Jeremiah Love, which they don't necessarily need, or one of these great Ohio State defensive players. How, as a player, or if you were thinking about becoming an executive now, with all the knowledge you have of football, what's more important, how good the player is, or would you take a little bit of a lesser player if you thought the position was something you desperately needed?
I think it's all about situation. If you're the Cleveland Browns and you're sitting there and you're saying, we're deficient in a lot of areas, then I would say you go with the best player. And there's so many, like you mentioned, the Ohio State guys, but
Yeah.
there's also a wide receiver from Ohio State
Yep.
who might be there at 6 as well. And I think
Yeah.
the one thing that the Browns benefit from, and it's kind of the same, I don't want to call it a predicament, but situation that the Patriots are in. You would say the 3 areas they need the most help in is, bolstering the offensive line, receiver, and maybe some depth at edge or linebacker. And I think this draft is pretty deep in all those areas. So if you decide to go with Carnell Tate at 6, then maybe in that second pick in the first round, you go and you get one of those linemen because there's going to be a lot of them, or maybe there's an edge player you want to get. Or to your point, maybe with that first pick, you say, I don't care what it is, we're going to take the best available player.
Right.
And because we know we have another first round pick, or, we've seen it. And I know people get sick of it, and I hate it as a fan as well, is like the trade back. Like, is someone there who
Yeah.
really wants Jeremiah Love? Yeah, you got Judkins. You're not going to draft Love. Does someone, give you some more draft capital? Which, if you're the Browns, you want to improve your team the best you can. So, but for me, if you go offensive line with that 6th pick and want to get one of those premier guys, I think there's a receiver in the late 20s that you could really like. The
Yeah.
kid Concepcion from A&M, or
Right.
the Boston kid out of Washington. So I would say if you're going to go offense in the first round, whether it's receiver or offensive line,
Yeah.
you could really kind of play it both ways. Do we want to go with Carnell Tate because he won't be there in the 20s?
Yeah.
Great. Then what lineman is it? Henniture out in Arizona State, who is a tremendous story, by the way. Like growing up in, I think it was Nigeria,
Yeah.
soccer player, puts all this weight on, and he's out there shoving Vrabel around at pro day, like looks incredible. So
Yeah.
I think those positions you can really nail in the first round if they want to.
Brian, do you know Brian Hartline very well? I know you're both from Northeast Ohio.
Yeah.
I think you missed each other with the Browns by 1 year, but I assume
Yeah.
you know him well.
Yeah, we grew up. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't want to say we grew up together. Obviously, I was
Right.
in Cleveland. He was down in Canton, Glen
Yeah.
Oak. But knowing him from playing against each other in college in the
Yeah.
NFL, I actually was down in Columbus last summer visiting some family. Stopped by and saw Matt Patricia and those guys,
Yeah.
and saw Heartline. And I just told him, I said, dude, every time I throw an Ohio State wide receiver, coming in the draft out, like they're incredible. Like
Yeah.
Ibuka last year, I was like, this guy's more of a pro receiver than half the pro receivers.
Yeah.
And so that if you're drafting a receiver out of Ohio State, I know he's leaving to go to South Florida, but like
Yeah.
you're getting an NFL guy day one, and that's what I think. That's why, like to me, if I'm Cleveland, I'm just going down the road I-71 and getting Carnell Tate with 6.
Yeah. And they so desperately need that wide receiver. I mean, the Browns haven't had that I mean, Josh Gordon, who
Yep.
obviously was the last guy. We've talked about it before, but like, what could Josh Gordon have been? What could have been with Josh Gordon?
I mean, I think he was along, physically speaking, it was right up there with like, Calvin Johnson, Julio Jones. I mean,
Yeah.
he was so incredibly talented, and I got to play with him twice, and it was kind of nice to see him, here in New England as well, because I think he had gotten things a little more squared away,
Yeah.
for the extent of that time here, and he opened up a little bit more, and really, I mean, look, I always. When you're a quarterback and you look out there and you see number 12 and he's 6'4", 220, and he runs like a deer, you're like, all right, I'm definitely going to, throw the ball. I remember my first start for the Browns. I think I targeted him like 17 times. So, yeah,
Smart move.
yeah, definitely. And we won. So it worked
Yeah.
out.
Yeah, I mean, you had great success with the Browns. I mean, you really did, and it was a fun time. I mean, the fans were into it. It was a great stretch of time, and obviously things have been more down than up since. But heading into this season, as the Browns, are trending towards the dome here in a couple of years, do you feel any hope? Like, do you think there's any reason for optimism for fans right now?
I mean, look, I think it was a big shock that they hired Todd Monken, but I've
Yeah.
always had a lot of respect for him. I think he's a great coach.
Yeah.
I've really liked how he's handled himself, since he's gotten the job. And so I think he brings a level of, I don't want to call it throwback or old school, but he kind of has that. And I think if you're Cleveland and it's a blue collar town, like you want that. You don't want, one of these smart guys who's going to outwit you. And I think they have a little bit of that in the front office, right? I think you need
Oh,
to get
yeah.
back to what Cleveland really is. And that's, you're in the AFC North. I hate the fact that they're going to do a dome. I think
Yeah.
for so many years growing up, like when it started snowing, that's when I wanted to go play football outside. And I get it, the business side, you're going to be
Yeah.
able to host concerts and all that stuff. But the one thing I know about playing in New England, we use that to our advantage, and I think in Cleveland it could be the same thing. So, I don't love it. Obviously there's business factors to it, but I do like Monken. Obviously, until they stop adding names to that jersey, that my name's right smack dab in the middle of, like, it's going to be hard to have sustained success because
Yeah.
the reality is this league is a quarterback driven league, and until you can find someone who's going to be there long term, who's going to be one of the top guys in the league, it's just hard to win consistently.
Brian, last thing quick before you go watch your son play ball, which is exciting. In the last few months, last few months, we've seen Indiana win a football national championship, and Michigan win a basketball national championship. As a Michigan State guy, are you? I mean, like, do you root for your fellow Big Ten teams or no?
Never for Michigan, ever,
Yeah,
ever,
never.
ever.
Yeah.
Indiana, I was excited, more so because I like the way they play. I really like Signetti and the way
Yeah.
he coached. I liked Mendoza, and so for me, you're always rooting for alma mater, but in the end, when I'm watching football, I want to watch good football. And I thought
Sure.
they were so well coached, disciplined. They played the game the right way. I thought Mendoza was so impressive. I always, if it's Big Ten and not including Michigan, I'm rooting for him.
Brian, we're rooting for you, and have fun watching your son, man. That's awesome that you're out there. Hope is he pitching today, or is he just hitting
No,
today?
he pitched the other day, so today
Nice.
he'll be out in the outfield and hopefully keeps the swing going because he's been hot to start the season. Kind of like Chase the
Nice.
Lauder. I mean, go back to the Guardians. Yeah, what a guy, what a story that guy's been. So I'd lock him up right now. You're seeing all these deals with these young
Absolutely.
guys. I saw Connor Griffin signed his deal, I think today. I think you got a good one there. Go ahead and lock him up.
Yeah, I agree with you. He had a 2-run double early in the game again today. Brian, great stuff, man. Thank you for taking the time. We'll talk to you again soon.
All right, see you guys.
All right. The great Brian Hoyer. Awesome to chat with him. What a great guy. He was a tremendous, not only a tremendous quarterback, but a great human being. Represents Northeast Ohio very well. And it was great to chat with him as we are just about 2 weeks from the draft. If you're looking for a betting angle, check out the Top Picks news feed in your Bet Rivers app. The Bet Rivers banner news feed is filled with Bet Rivers network personalities and more handicappers to give you expert insights. By the way, yesterday I nailed one for you. I gave you the over on Tuesday. The over, I think it was 5.5 strikeouts for Gavin Williams, and I think he had 8 or 9. Whatever the exact number, he definitely went over. So we got things like that. Tap the Top Picks icon in your Bet Rivers app for the latest tips. And get into the swing of the baseball season. Bet Rivers in the bullpen giving you a bonus bet to get a practice swing. Bettors in Ohio can get a $10 bonus bet to use on baseball when they enter the code. You see it right there on your screen, ATB316 in the Bet Rivers app. That code again is ATB316. If you don't have the app, download it. If you have it, use the code. After you download it, use the code. Must be 21 and in Ohio. The offer ends this Sunday, the 12th. So take advantage of it now. Eligible players only. Gambling problem, call 1-800-589-9966. Coming up on Thursday, Dustin and I will be live at 9 a.m. in the bullpen. We're going to probably have a time change to the live bullpen. We'll let you know about it tomorrow. Coming up next week on the podcast, we will have Sean King. We will have Zach Jackson. So a lot of things happening as we count down now 15 days until the start of the NFL draft. Thanks to Levi and Ernie for producing today, and thanks to all of you for watching and listening. Please hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already. I'll talk to you next time. Where else? But right here in the bullpen with Adam the Bull, brought to you by Bet Rivers. See you, everybody.